What's up everyone, Adam here from Cape Crawlers, and today we're going to take a look at the Furitek Avatar transmitter setup on the Axial SCX24 Deadbolt. Welcome back to the channel everybody. Got a fun video for you today. We're going to focus primarily on the Furitek electronics, specifically the Avatar transmitter and the micro receiver that it comes with, but we're also going to do a refresh on the Deadbolt, old snaggletooth. So my SCX24 Deadbolt build has been a ton of fun. It's super capable. It's a blast. One of my favorite rigs by far. But I feel like I kind of ruined it when I put the rear steering system on it. Because what I didn't do any chassis modifications or anything like that. I put the rear steering in. I'm still running the V1 electronics. And it's just kind of clunky. You know, operating it with the switch, the channel 3 switch back and forth was cool at first. And it is very cool. It's functional to a point, but it's really cumbersome to kind of finagle that switch back and forth while you're trying to crawl and hit a technical line. And especially when I'm trying to get content for you guys, I'm trying to do this one-handed, hold the phone and the camera. It's just tricky. And with the biggest issue, so that's kind of like that's a minor complaint. But the biggest issue is that it really hurt my crawling ability, particularly my climbing ability, because the rear chassis sits on the servo so much higher. It really lifted the rear end up and threw off my chassis balance and my center of gravity and everything, I feel. So it really kind of set me back from a performance standpoint. So we're going to rectify that in this episode. I've been kind of hacking away at the chassis, doing some tweaks and some mods here. So what the goal of this video is primarily is to sort out the rear steering and get it into a proportional setup, which I'm really hoping that we can do pretty easily with the Avatar setup. I've seen this demonstrated before and it looks really seamless. This thing has a ton of capabilities in it and I'm really excited to try it. And with the micro receiver that it comes with, so I bought this as the package deal for 150 bucks. You get the Avatar and you also get the micro receiver, tiny little thing. What that's going to allow me to do is kind of shift my electronics around so that I can make a rear body modification and get rid of the stock body mount so that the servo can slide up between the rear frame rails. I'll go over all this in more detail and show you what I'm talking about. While we're in there, I'm also going to take a look at the gears and the front differential. I might look at the steering components. We'll see. So I'm got kind of a small list of refresh items that I want to do to the Deadbolt while we're doing the Furitek mods. So before I go any further, I want to give a huge shout out to Furitek for helping me resolve my issue with the Avatar. So if you've seen my Bronco build series, in the last episode of the Bronco build, I bought an Avatar setup, turned out to be faulty. So I got everything all situated, but it wouldn't bind. It wouldn't bind to any of the 4 micro receivers that I got, because my plan was to put one of these receivers in a bunch of my high performance rigs so I can have one transmitter for all of my fleet. But the transmitter just would not bind. It bound initially and then dropped connection, and then a few hours later was just nothing. Couldn't diagnose it. Furitek overnighted me a brand new setup from Vietnam. I cannot imagine that was inexpensive by any means, but they got me hooked up with a brand new system and I've already been playing around with it, and so I know it works. So I got to give a huge shout out to the customer service over at Furitek for helping me out and putting us back on track to make some awesome content and get these builds going in the right direction. So with that, let's continue here. I'm going to dive in a little deeper, show you what we're doing with the Deadbolt, and then start putting some things on it. So let's take a look at old Snaggletooth, see what we're working with here. So she's going to get a bunch of upgrades. So I've started to work on this already, and I'll show you where I'm at. So what I've done is I've kind of ripped out all of the guts of this thing, the ESC battery tray as it was, all the electronics and everything. I've really pulled it out, trying to resituate the chassis here. And I eliminated the rear body mounts at the back of the frame. And I've put posts in here with a magnetic body mount. Now the goal is that, and you can see already here, is that this servo fits right in between the frame rails, whereas before it was stopping about right there, which was raising the chassis pretty significantly and throwing off my performance. So we're going to try and get back to where I was and probably beyond in terms of performance. I think this will really help. So with the body post or the magnetic mount in the back, the servo is able to fit right up through the frame rails. Should level this thing out again and give it that nice low ride height like I had before I put the four-wheel steering in. Four-wheel steering is cool, but not at the expense of overall performance. So you can see it sits a lot better now. I gotta adjust the posts, but kind of gives you an idea of how it will sit when everything's all said and done. Much more level. Still a little raised in the back. I might kind of mess with the shock positioning a little bit. I don't know. But it's still a huge improvement. So I'm excited to see how this thing performs, particularly on uphills where I feel like I really lost ground on my uphills when I did the four-wheel steer. So one of the things that when I did this relocation, the ESC and the V1 electronics would not fit here. I was really running into kind of clearance issues with a lot of my pieces. So we've got the micro receiver from Furitek and the Lizard Pro, which we already had. But these should tuck in nicely right there. Sit right there on that little shelf. Battery will sit here in the middle, and we should be good to go. And with the micro receiver, we should be able to now use the Furitek Avatar setup that I got as part of the Bronco build. So this should share across, I think it's up to 15 models now. I'd have to check to be sure. Way more than what I have currently. So I'm planning to put 3 or 4 models on this transmitter. So this will be one of them here. And the benefits will be that it's going to save a ton of room, eliminate weight, and keep that battery right here in the middle, and regain some weight distribution and some low ride height. So that's the plan with the electronics and the rear body posts. I'm also going to do some overdrive gears. So I've had a lot of success with the overdrive gears in my other rigs, and old Snaggletooth has not had it done yet. So we're going to throw the 23% overdrive gears in the front of this thing, just to, again, add a little bit more performance. I really like the overdrive gears, so I think it's time. It's long overdue to put them in old Snaggletooth. So that's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to get wrenching. I'm going to start taking things apart. I've got a good start on the chassis here. I'm going to do the overdrive gears because that's kind of the most labor intensive thing. And then I'm going to hook everything up and we'll take it for a spin. All right, I had to do some tweaking here, so that wasn't going to fit because it was just, the tray was angled up too much. So what I had to do was just take the bolts out of each kind of mounting position here. That way this can sit a little lower down in, and that was able to fit. A lot of tweaking with the wires and everything, but I think we're good now. So I had to move the servo wire around so it wasn't rubbing on the motor, but I think it's good. So I think we're in a position to fire this thing up. Let's give it a shot. Real time here. First time booting this thing up. Let's do it together. So the first time I fire it up, I've got to put it in bind mode. If I can do this. Man, that switch is tucked way in there. To press this tiny little button here. This thing is so small. This tiny little bind button in there. Couple tools here. Okay, now turn this back on. We are in bind mode. Now if I boot up the Furitek, let's bind. We should be able to bind this different model. Go to model 2. Got it. There it is. Cool. gosh, this thing is so ruthless. It's just so punchy. Holy cow. So the V1 electronics had the low, medium, and high mode. The Avatar does not. It's just one setting. So it does have real-time telemetry on the screen here, so I can mess with that on here, but it is going to take some getting used to. This thing is so peppy, I can tell you already. Holy cow. So let me switch this around and get acclimated here. So the throttle is reversed, so I got to go in and change that. Actually, let me flip around here. I'll do this on camera. So to bind it was really easy. You just go to menu, go down to your model. If you can see, Model 1 I already have set up as the Bronco. Model 2, that's what I was able to do. And then you go into Model 2 and you just hit bind, and I was able to connect it right away. Super easy. Just hold it to go back. So if we go down to, I gotta think, where is the reverse? Here it is. So I've got to change the throttle, which is right here on the fly. Reverse that. Now I should be back. Yeah, that's how I want it. Long press, go back to the main menu. Now what I really want to check out is the, oh, this thing is so fast. It's so snappy. Holy smokes. Oh, so 3S might be too much, at least until I get acclimated with this thing. Man, this thing is a monster. What I really want to check out is the rear steer. So I think if I go again, crawler mix, I think it is. Go down to crawler. Yeah, so there's rear steer. Oh, that's so cool. You can see that? Let me move this here. You see, it's just the rear steer working. Then it can go same phase. Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Holy cow. You crab walk it. Oh my gosh, look at that. And you can do it right on the fly. So reverse phase. That's how you get those super tight corners. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I'm so pumped right now. So good. And then you change it back to front side. So good. That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Man, that's worth the price of the new transmitter right there. That is fantastic. Awesome. But anyway, I'm going to keep playing with this. This is really cool. So this is the first time I've tried this with this transmitter. So I'm going to button up the body and get it all back together and then try this out on the course. Okay, Deadbolt 2.0, Snaggletooth 2.0 with the new electronics and chassis mods going on here. Running 3S power. Let's try some vertical climbing because that was one of the issues I was really looking to solve. I'm going to leave the rear steer on here just to kind of play around. See how we go. First impressions, this thing is super, super snappy. Oh, major lift there. That front right tire is not spinning. What's going on here? It looks like we got some axle issues here. See, it's just free spinning there. The pin is in the axle stub. If you can see that, it's not focusing. So something happened here. I'm wondering if the CVD came apart while I was putting the knuckles back together. So I got to rip this thing apart, see what happened, see if we can get this fixed, and then get back on here. All right, so it turned out to be worse than I expected. It wasn't a pin missing, it was a snapped CVD axle. So I took the hub apart here. So I took the knuckle apart here, got in, could see that it was still attached, but you can see that, if you can see, it snapped that CVD right in two. So I don't know, it must have been just about ready to snap. I didn't feel like I put hardly any pressure on that thing going up Mini Moab, but I have to throw in an extra axle so we can keep this test rolling. And we're back. Minor interruption there. Let's give this a shot. All right, jeez, this thing is peppy. All right. The chute, let's do it. That was good. Now how about Hell's Gate? So it could do Hell's Gate before, it was just not as pretty, not as capable as it used to be. So I want to get back to that functionality. Tricky with the steering. I'm going to turn the four-wheel steer off and try this again. There we go. Flat as a pancake up there. So the thing just shredded Hell's Gate, but let's give the escalator a try just for fun. Much better. So I'm very happy with the performance. So now let's just have some fun with this thing. I just want to play around with it. Oh my gosh, it's so snappy. Just play around with the four-wheel steering and have some fun. I'm telling you, I think I missed the V1 electronics with the modes, the high and low and medium, because this thing is unbelievably snappy. Four-wheel steer can just shred through those obstacles. Whoa, man, look at that. Oh, it saved it. So my battery just died there. So I threw in a new battery. So it was that snappy and gnarly on a near dead battery. Now it's got a fresh 3S in it. Oh my gosh. It's like, it's so angry. Holy cow, it is barely controllable. I don't have the coordination in my left hand to be that ginger with the trigger. Oh man, the steering is so good. Nice. And this thing is such a beast. All right, just a quick update here. So I've been playing with this thing, and the more I mess around with it, the more I learn. So I just figured this out. So check out. So I go to the menu here, and I go down to all the way down to the button map. So I can map these two buttons. This is button 1 and button 2 on the top here. You can do a bunch of different things. Lock the throttle, low speed. This is what I wanted to show you. So you can set this to a mode where it does reduced speed. So I just lost it there, but it's set at 50% low speed. So if I switch that off, it's back to full speed. Switch it on, then, or vice versa there. So it's at normal speed right now. If I switch that over, low speed, see it indicated right there on the bottom. Now this is really cool because not only can you do that on the fly, but let's say that 50% wasn't enough. I can adjust the speed and go down to 40 or whatever I want. Let's put it back to 50 and give it a try. But how cool is that? You know, I was concerned about the jumpiness of the 3S setup and the brushless motor, and we just figured out how to fix it. So get back to the main menu here. So low speed, kick it back, normal speed. Let's go give it a shot, see how it goes. Oh, there it is. There's the slow crawl right there. That's what I was talking about. That's what I was missing, man. Perfect. This is so cool. Even at 50%, it's still got plenty of punch. I can feel it, but it's so much easier to control. I imagine on 2S this would be even better. There it is. Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. Try to slow it down. Creeping. It's a little bit of a hitch there because I think it just wants to jump, just wants to go. So you could dial that down a little bit more, but like I said, on 2S power, man, it could just scale that no problem. There's that slow crawl I wanted. But on 2S power, yeah, I think this would be just like it was before with that ultimate slow crawl control. And then of course you could dial it in however you wanted, but really cool feature. Just wanted to showcase that real quick before we wrap up here. Snaggletooth 2.0, let's talk about it. This is a fun episode, right? Minor setbacks there with the broken axle, but hey, it happens, right? I'm glad I was able to capture it. We were able to share that together. Doesn't always go perfect. You know, it may look perfect in the videos. It's not the case, I can assure you. So as you saw today. So we did a quick pivot, threw in the Mofo RC hardened steel plus 5mm axles in the front, and got us back in action. Man, this thing is a ton of fun. I'm so pumped with the Avatar. This is exactly what I was looking for, and it totally exceeded my expectations. The ease of use, ease of setup, very happy with it. I mean, the faulty unit in the first go around, I'm not mad about that because Furitek treated me so good to get it replaced, and this thing works so phenomenal. Once it's up and running, I'm just so pumped. So that proportional rear steer is a game changer. The rear steer before was cool, like I said in the beginning of the video. It's definitely cool, it's fun, but it kind of wears off. Once the novelty wears off, it kind of becomes really clunky. You kind of lose the functionality because you're fumbling around with the switch. It really doesn't make a lot of sense. This thing, however, this turns it into a weapon. Now it's really capable, and being able to just toggle on the fly, so simple, is excellent. And this transmitter, very good for one-handed operation. You know, it fits perfectly in one hand. I'm able to record, drive, very quick just to switch things around. Could probably do the switching. Nah, I'm not that coordinated to do that with one hand. But driving one-handed is very easy with this thing. Yeah, it's great. I love that I can put multiple rigs on one transmitter, being able to toggle back and forth between the Bronco and the Deadbolt and soon the Gladiator and the JLU probably. It's awesome to have one transmitter to do all of those things. So this thing is very cool. Very happy with it. The micro receiver did exactly what I was hoping it would do. Really freed up room in this thing so that I can get my low center of gravity back and get this thing back to a climbing beast, which is exactly what it became. And the Deadbolt is just a monster right now. It is just a whole nother level, I think, with the control and the rear steer and the way the chassis is set up now. It's just in really, really good, capable shape right now. So really pumped with that. I do need to figure out how to mess with the telemetry, the throttle, because it is borderline unusable on 3S. And it's so powerful. And the slow speed crawl that I love from the Mofo SMP so much is virtually gone because I don't have the fine motor skills to squeeze this thing enough or light enough to really benefit from the slow speed now. But there's got to be a way to adjust it. I'm sure there is. I just got to dig in here a little bit more and mess with the telemetry and the settings to see what I can do. If I can tone down that throttle response more and flatten the curve out a little more, that's what I'm going to try to do. And then I think it will be even more improved. It was a lot better when I took it outside and put it on the 2S, much more manageable on the regular 2S batteries. But still, I think there's a lot of capability, customization options in this thing that I just haven't discovered yet. But first impressions in the first, probably hour that I've had this thing up and running, very, very impressed. Super happy I got it. Totally exceeded my expectations. So really pumped. Deadbolt in general, really pumped with. This was a fun episode. We got some good stuff in here. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of the Deadbolt? Have you run one of these transmitters before? What's your go-to transmitter? I'd like to hear from you guys as always. Thanks for watching so much. I really appreciate your time. We are closing in on another milestone. We are near 1 million views on the channel. So again, just want to take the time to appreciate and acknowledge all of you. Really appreciate it. I love the feedback and the comments that we get. We got a good community going here. Let's keep it going. We're going to keep these videos rolling. And as always, appreciate you guys. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so, and we'll see you in the next video.